school committee meeting of Wednesday, March 4th. It is 7:04 p.m. with the call to order, and I would like to invite everyone that is present and able to stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Correspondence. Dr. Munoz, is there any correspondence today from the?
There is not.
Okay. Excellent. I will move right into the warrants. So for today's meeting, I signed payroll warrants in the amount of $2,205,964.28. And accounts payable warrants in the amount of $2,038.48, $4,917.52, $4,628.22, $20,654.83, $21,106.48, $19,854.69, $4,017.10, and $4,222.88 for a grand total of $2,287,404.48. Are there any questions or comments from the committee? No? Excellent. Moving right along to public comment. Is there anyone here presently that would like to speak at public comment? Hearing and seeing none. Did we receive anything via the office of the superintendent of someone that may have signed up?
We did not.
Digitally. Great. So I will officially declare at 7:06 p.m. Public comment closed. People wishing to speak at public comment can come to our meeting at 7 o'clock in person and sign up right before the meeting starts. If somebody would like to be hybrid or sign up beforehand, how you do that is you can reach out to the superintendent's office by noon on the day of the meeting to register and then come, or you could register and receive a link that would allow you to be able to do that virtually. So always like to remind the public of that. Moving right along into appearances, I would like to invite Mr. Jason Morency up for the quarterly food service update. Welcome. Good, how are you?
Good. All right, well, thank you guys again for inviting us to give us our food service update. First off, I always like to start when I come in, and I believe I did it the last time, I just want to thank all of our staff. They do a great job on a daily basis. They're the face of our organization in each school. They work with our students very closely, and I just want to say thank you very much, and they do a great job, and I'm really lucky to have a lot of them in their positions. So. All right, first slide here, like financials. We are receiving a good amount of reimbursements, higher than budgeted amount, buying more product. So we're ahead there with $130,476. Labor cost is a little higher. That's due to the new middle school opening up that building with a little extra cleaning cost, having the ladies in and the other staff to put things away and just get that building going. Directs are on target, and we are at a good $284,154 for a profit. So things are good in school nutrition. We are pumping along, and like I said, we're doing a great job, and the staff is doing a great job with on a daily basis. Meals served year to date through January, from 21 to 25 to 26. We did have one snow day this year when this report came out. I know we had a couple more after that, but we're on target. We're pretty close. With that one day at 329,000 year to date. Last year we had 330. LMPA is helping these counts a little bit, as that is a newer program, and that program is doing great down there. So good trajectory, solid numbers, and we anticipate our meals to keep going at a great pace for this year. We are still CEP, free for all students. This is the time of year where DESE is reaching out for us to start looking and getting ready for next year to renew free meals for all. We will be going forward with that. So just letting you know, free meals for all. All students can come in and get a free breakfast and a free lunch on a daily basis. What's happening in Norwood School Nutrition? We are cruising along. Like I said, we're doing 3 to 4 events a week. I wanted to share some here with what's going on. We had a Discovery Kitchen event where we had our cart out at the schools. Students had a chance to work with us on the cart and make some cauliflower mac and cheese. Students had a chance to grind some cheese, mash up some cauliflower, mix the cheese and all that together, and have that for lunch that day. It was a great time. The students loved it. We got a nice bunch of photos to show them doing it. And it was a good day at those schools that had the chance to work alongside us and make some cauliflower mac and cheese. We also had our mood boost going, where students had a chance to have a crunchy treat and some kale chips. We grabbed some kale, a little seasoning, and roast them, and the students had a chance to eat that at their lunch period for a taste test. Student choice, what we're known for, giving student a voice, listening to them, and putting it on the menu. We celebrated Mardi Gras, where the students had a chance to learn a couple fun facts about Mardi Gras, get a little bit of swag, and also try some sausage gumbo. Overwhelming hit, the kids loved it. This was an older meal, so the middle school and the high school had a chance to have the sausage gumbo. And the students got to celebrate Plant Power, where we had some marinated chickpeas with some chopped up vegetables and a little bit of seasoning. The elementary kids, we sold out of it. They loved it, so we are going to be adding that to the menu in the future, where the students get to have that as a side, some chickpeas marinated with some vegetables. So really good events, a lot of good stuff going on a daily and weekly basis. Norwood Public School Food Service received a New England Dairy Grant. With those funds, we had a chance to buy an immersion blender where we can make large amounts of smoothies. With that, smoothies were added to the menu 1 day a week for all schools. We have had events the last couple weeks to really promote it and really show the students, hey, Wednesdays we'll be having some smoothies at your school, or Thursdays for other schools. Overwhelming hit. We sold a lot. We had a lot today. They were blending away. We've also brought out the smoothie bike as well for the students to, build their own smoothie, ride it, enjoy it. Mr. Norris did a great job with that bike for many years. I'm glad that we get to still use it there. So we have a dietetic intern with us. Her name is Allison. She has been awesome. She started in December. She's been involved with our student engagement events. She has worked with me on the Dairy Grant, providing, getting data, inputting data, working with us to promote the smoothies. She's also been working a lot with us with the Fresh Fruits and Vegetable Program. That's an FFP program. It's a federal program where students get to have a fresh fruit or vegetable off of lunchtime. With that, we give them education on those fruits and vegetables. She has done a great job with us on that and working on providing educational sheets and videos for students to learn about what they're getting that day as an offering. And a little bittersweet news here. We would really like to say a thank you to Kelsey. She worked with us here in Norwood as our dietitian. She is moving on because she has got a promotion at Stoneham Public Schools as a director. She was paramount in bringing me on and get me, into the district, helping me with a lot of the allergy program, and she overhauled the allergy program when I was here for that short amount of time. We really wish her great success. It was great working with Kelsey, and I know she's going to crush it over there in Stoneham. So, but with that, we're going to welcome Brooke. Brooke is from Ohio. She started off at the Ohio State University. She then moved on to Merrimack College to get her degrees. Brooke also did an internship with Tewksbury Public Schools as a dietary intern. So she does have some background in K-12. She's going to be a huge asset. We're very excited to have her start next week. And it'll be great to get her immersed in the district and get her out there. So we're excited for that. And this is Mr. Norris's favorite slide. I always defer to him for this. He created this, and so Mr. Norris, please continue.
Well, as you heard from Mr. Morency, we love school food. We love feeding the kids, but we can't do it by ourselves, and we're not the ones that do it. It's our associates, our staff that feed the kids. We have a great staff, as Jason has already said, but we're always looking for more. So if you're at home and you're watching and you're bored during the day and you want to come in and make food and feed kids, give us a call. Is that all right?
That was perfect. And again, thank you guys very much. And if there's any questions, let us know.
Turn it over to the committee. Any questions, comments?
You ever thought about having a theme where you have all the lunch ladies dress up as lunch lady? From the book.
From SNL.
From the book. No, from the book.
From the book.
With the.
I think it was maybe 4 or 5 years ago where we had shirts that were from there. Yeah.
That would be.
Not on a regular basis, but.
That was.
Yeah.
That was a staple of things. Was the lunch lady books.
Anybody else?
Thank you for all you do.
Yeah, I would just like to say thanks to Mr. Morency and Mr. Norris. Mr. Morency's been here like going into your 9th month, and I think we can see the program is thriving here, and you're doing a great job. Mr. Norris passed off the reins, and we have a program that's really like a model school nutrition program that we've built, and it clearly is continuing to be a program to be proud of. And I just wanted to say, when you looked at the finances on the first page, we have Mr. Morency and I are watching the return profit loss, and we're projected to hit the amount that we're supposed to in the Chartwell's contract. We should hit it before we even reach the last month or two of the school year. So we're doing well financially. We continue to spend on some equipment purchases because we have a balance in our account. So we're monitoring that and going over it with Superintendent Luff, and overall we're doing great with the finances. So thank
Excellent.
you.
All right. Well, if there's nothing from the committee, thank you guys very much.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
You as well. Moving right along into business. I'll turn it over to you for the Student Opportunities Act update.
Yeah, so thank you. We are in year 3 of our Student Opportunity Act, so next year we will have to write a new plan, and we have to submit to the state our progress reports. This is actually perfect timing. As we give you guys an update, we are giving them an update as well. And so just a reminder, our Student Opportunity Act focuses on accelerating outcomes for our multilingual learners, our English learners, our Latino students, and then our low-income students as well. And we have decided to target some more authentic family partnerships, obviously continue instructional practice, and then think about the MTSS process and how we're supporting kids through that. And so a couple of the key actions that we've had. So we're not changing, there's no modifications in the plan. We are still staying the course. It's never going to be a one and done. Things take 3 to 5 years to actually manifest itself and have some good data, so we want to stay the course. So we are still doing our adult English classes, which have seemed to be successful. We're still doing those classes as well, and people are still attending those pretty frequently, which would help with our family reach out for chronic absenteeism. We are continuing with our professional development. This is our last year finishing cooperative learning training, which is a great SCI strategy to elevate student discourse in the classroom and practice their English. We are also looking at our MTSS process, and we have hired a consultant to come in and do some work with that, and aligning across the district with exit and entrance criteria to make sure that we are all using the same kind of processes and things about every single kid, so no kids fall through the cracks, whether it's tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3 students. And then we are, this year we have implemented a real-time instructional coaching model to help support teachers using those cooperative learning strategies, so that way they get coached and they get opportunities to practice with some support in the classroom for them. And our advanced coursework in the high school is doing really well. If you look at the evidence of progress, like we have increased for all 3 subgroups, our English language learners, our Latino students, and our low-income students, we are increasing the amount of students taking those AP courses and signing up for those AP courses, so that's always a key win for us. We have seen early growth in kindergarten and grade 1 cohorts measured by DIBELS, our DIBELS assessment. And depending on the grade level, you've seen some celebrations in the STAR benchmark assessment. And because of our Mustang Metrics platform that we have now rolled out to the district, we're able to be more data informed when talking to families and discussions about their own student progress as well. We are, like I said, we are continuing to do an MTSS calibration. So all school leaders are meeting right now. Interventionists and reading specialists and Title I teachers meet with the district team to talk about how we are supporting our students in different tiers and what intervention looks like across the district versus just one school. So that's work that we're continuing to do, and we'll hope to finalize by the end of the year so we can have a new process or a more refined process rolled out next year. And so that'll give us more accountability, obviously. In 2024, this is more new information. DESE, or the state passed Mass Leads Act, which basically says that every district needs to start having a plan for hiring a diverse workforce. And so they wanted an update on how we're trying to kind of approaching that. I worked with the town with Lisa Yu, and they are in professional development or trainings about learning how to recruit and acquire a more diverse talent pool for us to interview and look at as well. And then as well as we're looking at seeing if there's any programs or any things that we can do in-house to elevate some of maybe our paraprofessionals who are in a diverse population, to maybe get them a teaching license and encourage them to apply and support them as well. So that's not any funds that we're using or anything like that. That's just something that DESE wanted to say, hey, this is every district. We're going to start asking every district to report on this and what are your thoughts on this. So we are thinking about that as we are going through our hiring processes this season as well. So our next step is we're just going to continue to implement with Fidelity. Our family liaisons are still on board. They're still doing a lot of work. They're working with principals when they have to reach out to families about chronic absenteeism or supporting a student, or just being proactive and going to events and meeting families along those lines. And then our instruction will continue to look at data, monitor data, and look at those subgroups and really focus on those subgroups and just give high expectations to all kids. You know, I think that sometimes we come in and there could be a challenge of this kid maybe can't do this, but they can. So how do we actually give them access and give them opportunity to access the grade level curriculum and do some things that maybe that another school district may not have thought that they can do. So those are our quick updates for the SOA.
Excellent.
Yep.
To the committee. Go ahead.
So JJ, we're in year 3 of the 3-year plan.
Yep.
Yes. Do we have to do a new plan next year?
Yeah.
Yeah. Are they staying on a 3-year cycle?
As far as I know, because they said when we went on the call for the SOA call last month, they said this is the final year of the plan. So I'm anticipating we'll have to write a new one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think I've said this every year that we had an SOA plan,
Yes,
but
you
I'm
have.
going to go on my soapbox again, so just hang in there with me. I asked you earlier for the budget, and you resent me the information from last year, because the budget for the SOA plan does not actually come from Chapter 70 as it's intended to. So when we were in year 1, our funding for the SOA plan was ESSER funding, which has been gone for
Yep.
the last 2 years.
Yep.
It was an SEL 311 grant that we no longer have.
But we still
or
have
we
it.
shifted
Yeah,
the
we still have
priority,
it.
right?
We still have it, but we just it's been split.
The safety care?
Yeah.
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 Okay. And then we had the 186 grant, which I think we lost.
Well, we're no longer eligible for that grant.
Right.
Yes.
So then in year 2 and now carrying over to year 3, we're really relying on title money, Title II and Title III, and a little bit of your PD budget, but I know your PD budget also has some grant funding in it.
Yeah, the Title II funds are part of the grant, are part of the PD budget as well.
Right. So my point in this is that the whole intention of the state with the Student Opportunities Act was to increase the Chapter 70 revenue stream. And the plan that you submit, and that we submit every year, we're supposed to tell DESE how the Chapter 70 is funding the district's work to close the gap in the SOA. But we don't receive enough of the Chapter 70 to allocate it to the SOA.
And nor do they ask in their updates. So they basically just ask about the things that I told you about. They don't say, hey, here's your funds. How are you actually using these funds?
Well, they stopped asking. They did at first,
Yeah.
right? They don't ask anymore. But they still claim on their DESI page, because I went there today before I
Right.
came here, they still say Chapter 70 is fully phased in by FY '27. Sean, would you agree with that statement, that they fully fund it?
I
But
mean,
Chapter 70 is not fully funded and supporting the SOA.
yeah, I mean, you'll see that when we talk about legislative advocacy. A lot's changed at the state with the decreasing enrollments for a lot of places, but in general, there's a thought between districts that it's not keeping pace.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, you're gonna hear that in the legislative, that meeting that Sean,
Yeah.
Tim and I went to, so.
And just a message I've been talking about
Yeah.
for 9 years,
Yeah.
and I'll
Yeah.
continue to talk about for the next month, is that people need to understand that the operating budget that is appropriated at town meeting does not cover everything that we do. And when it comes to the SOA, when it comes to student services, special education, ELL learners, a lot of that money is grants.
Yeah. Good point.
Thank you. Anything else? No? Okay. Continuing along with your show.
One down. Okay, next one is our district curriculum accommodation plan. So this is our DCAP. And in the memo, what I really liked about this one is I was able to pull our first DCAP. They call it a DCAP. When I first got here, it was created in 2012, and I kind of highlighted the issues for it. So, DCAP in 2012, it was not issues. It was a foundational compliance and RTI model. So it was geared towards RTI, response to intervention, and it was for compliance for DESI, because DESI said we need to have a DCAP, right? And so you can see the different bullet points. It was obviously aligned to mass law. It was in response to intervention. And then we had 3 different levels. We had the middle school, elementary, and high school framework. And it talked about all the different personnel sources that are available to support teachers and the accommodations and interventions. There's a huge page, a bunch of pages of checklists. And so, when in 2023, when we decided to look at it and update it, we entered some equitable MTSS processes. So the DESI has an MTSS framework. We adopted that and threw it into our DCAP. At the same time, we had that there. It talked about more universal tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 supports that students should have. And we really wanted to state in that document that tier 3 is not synonymous with special education. A kid that is not on an IEP or not a special education student can receive tier 3 services, and that's not the same thing. So we wanted to make sure that was explicitly clear. And then we talked about how we're using our assessment system to tier our kids, and what are we using for data to say this is a tier 2 student, they need tier 2 services, tier 3, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We made some definitions on stuff like student support teams and all those other things. Well, we understand that it still wasn't whole yet, and so we got together this year with the school leaders and some other folks that are in the district, maybe some interventionist reading specialists, and I know some other people have looked at the DCAP as well. And we said, what else can we add to it? And so, not only did we keep the MTSS structure in it, but we wanted to show what actually accommodations are actually available for all students at all times, right? So not just from an academic lens, but also from a social and emotional lens as well. And so that gave much more depth and much more thoroughness to saying, okay, here's some of the accommodations that kids can use that are not necessarily a 504 or have to be on an IEP, that they actually can get these accommodations before we even think about doing those things as well. And obviously, if you see the link at the very top where it says, district curriculum accommodation plan, you can click on that to actually see the DCAP yourself. But those are basically the changes, and then there's a little table there that kind of highlights how it evolved from 2012 to now.
Okay. To the committee. Questions, comments?
I would just like to say that I appreciate the evolvement of this, where I've definitely mentioned before that I had experience with a student not qualifying for certain services, but then having DCAP accommodations. And it was not universally applied. Like, it wasn't very, wasn't very well known. So certain counselors seemed to understand it, others didn't, and I don't know. It was kind of messy.
Yeah.
So this, I definitely, from a personal experience, appreciate that it's getting a little more solidified and
structured and a little more attention.
Yeah, I also think that we haven't dedicated enough professional development time to it. So we need to educate teachers and staff as to what it is. People know what it is, but they don't really refer back to it. So this should be our referral of, like, if you're going to bring a kid to a student support team, you're going to talk about things before they even, go to tier 2 or tier 3 services. What are they currently getting now that they have access to? They don't need special documents. And so our next phase in this plan is actually to roll it out to schools and have schools look at it, learn it, and then we can always refer back to it when we're talking about these intervention meetings and MTSS processes.
So JJ, you mentioned like needing more PD, and I know it's been quite a while now since we did universal design learning, because we wrapped that up before you joined, right? Like that
Right,
was
it
just
was
under
before my
Dr.
time.
Wyeth, so that was like 4 or 5 years ago.
Yep.
Do you find that, and you may not know, but like, is our staff still mostly the staff that was here when we went through UDL, or has there been so much transition that we have a good amount of staff that never had that formal PD?
I think the majority of our staff are still here. I think that we just, when things come and go, when new initiatives come and go, sometimes people forget what those are. And so we're just bringing them back to saying, here's these things again, don't forget about these things. And if you look at some of the accommodations that students would get, it's not gonna be new news to teachers or staff to say, I don't know what that is. It's just like, oh, I don't have to actually ask for 504 for the student, or I actually don't have to go to an SST meeting first. I can actually do these things already. And so that's what we need to educate them on, just saying, hey, don't forget about these things. The kids can actually have these things without you having to go through special loopholes or jump through, loops.
And I definitely agree with Anne Marie. I'm very happy to hear the progress on that. So is it, if the teacher identifies a student as struggling, they offer it, or is it that the graphic organizers and all the things that you listed in here, visuals, they're just automatically in the curriculum for everybody?
They can do it for everybody, so
Yeah.
they don't have to. But sometimes they just forget. They think that it may be over scaffolding or stuff like that, and it's really not. So like that's why it's here,
Yeah.
and every student can have. If you want to move a student to the front of the seat, like preferential seating, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to go through a process to do that. The DCAP's telling you that it's allowed, and you can do that at your own discretion. Now, if we go to a student support team process, and some of these things aren't in place, to what Emery was talking about, where it could be a middle school and you have 6 different teachers,
Right.
and it's not consistent across the board. Okay, then now we have to bring in all the teachers and let them know that we're actually going to do these things for the student for every class,
Yeah.
because the student has been brought with concerns, and we're going to go ahead and support them this way. But every student can already access those things. Just teachers may not be aware.
Okay.
And that's essentially where I was with it, where it
Yeah.
just had to be written down somewhere in a document to be
Yeah.
like, this is not an
Yeah, so
IEP,
school leaders
but
will
this
be
is
able to
like-
take this now and be able to actually give a written, whether it's, a written document to a teacher saying, don't forget these things for the student, or if a parent needs more reassurance, and we can have that conversation as well. But it's really for the teachers to say, oh, yeah, I can do these things without having to jump through loopholes. I don't have to go through a special meeting for this. So, yeah.
Yeah, I thank you for bringing this to us, because the one that was worked on before you came never did come to the school committee. So in my time, this is the first time the school committee is actually seeing it and having a chance to discuss the DCAP. I think that's important. You mentioned in the document that this is big picture, but then each school is responsible for implementation or their own version? Is that?
Well, not their own version. This is
Okay.
everyone's DCAP, whether it's the high school, whether it's, LMPA. It's more, we're going to have schools begin to deliver, whether it's a staff meeting, a second staff meeting for, 2 second staff meetings, and just have a conversation and have some informal or formal training around it, and saying, this isn't like people can be like, what is this? This is brand new. This is like getting a better understanding of what it is and how it's always going to be available for you.
Okay. Could I ask one more question?
Yeah.
David? On page 8, I think I have a sense of what the table's showing, but just kind of talk me through it. So this is showing the curriculum per subject area broken down by grade, but it definitely isn't comprehensive of everything we teach. So how do you read this table?
Every year, we're going to have department chairs, school leaders in the elementary level, and look at this and say, what are we actually using for these are tier 1 curriculums.
Tier 1, okay.
Yeah. And then if you continue to go down,
Kind of broke
then you'll
out.
see to a tier 2 section, then you'll see if kids are in tier 2, here's some of the resources that we use for tier 2 in that chart. And then if you scroll down, you see tier 3, here's some of the resources we use for tier 3, and it's ever evolving. With research, or we get new materials and new curriculum, it's ever evolving into what we're using. So that way, if a teacher says, my kid may not be seeing a reading specialist right now, but they fall in the tier 3 category, what other resources can I use in the classroom with them in a small group setting, as an example?
So like for math, for example, just because math has been a very hot topic in my time on the school committee. For tier 1, it says big ideas, algebra 1, and then the Desmos activities. But obviously there's tier 1 geometry and pre-calc, and so.
Yeah, it all falls. It falls under those big ideas. It's the curriculum that the big ideas is the curriculum book
Okay.
for the company.
Okay.
And so, yeah, so it may not be listed on here specifically, but big ideas, and obviously we're going through a curriculum refresh this year, so.
Right.
It
Okay.
might be big ideas moving forward. That may be altered at the end of the year to whatever the new curriculum is.
I see. Okay. Thank you.
Anything else? No? Okay.
Somebody's supposed to vote. At one point, I thought in the
No.
law we were, but now it seems to rest more school councils, so.
No, it's something that's law that you have to have. We don't vote on it, and I spoke with Tim. We don't need to vote on it.
We don't vote on it. So
No.
what is the role of the school councils?
I'm sure it's like when the school councils do the same thing where it's just to see it and like give approval. It's like at the high school when they like look at a like program of studies. It's just the idea that they see it and there's input. It's not something that we need to vote on because you have to do it.
Yeah, but I'm just asking, like, the school councils have been a part of this?
If principals to share with them, yes, and I assume they have because there've been meetings going on. So it's an assumption that I'm making. I obviously haven't been in school council meetings, but yeah.
Yeah.
You have?
No,
Why not?
I haven't had time.
Anything else? No. Okay. Thank you. We will move out of business and we will move to budget. So we'll turn it over to Teresa and Anne Marie for our budget subcommittee update.
Well, I think the bulk of the budget will pass over to Mr. Mannion very quickly. But we did meet last Wednesday, and basically talked about the things that you see listed, the review of the FY27 budget, which Anne Marie and I can help support that presentation, and some of the decisions that we made last week that I think we're very excited about. And then there's some warrant articles that we have to discuss with you tonight as well, but separate from the budget subcommittee, but just to share, we did have a budget balancing committee meeting on Monday for 12 minutes, right? Most efficient meeting I think I've been in quite a while, so good job, Anne Marie as chair. And I did send out right after that meeting the material that we were given right before by Jeff O'Neill, so you do have that, and I give you a brief summary. But the good news is out of BBC is that BBC voted to appropriate to recommend that free cash is appropriated to both the schools and general government budgets to balance them. And what we voted on is the amount of $7,368,224 of free cash will go to town meeting in May. And as long as town meeting says, yes, you can use that free cash, then all of the great budget information that we're about to get from Sean, we can consider balanced. And we don't need to discuss further cuts tonight, which is very positive.
Yes.
Would you add anything else from BBC?
I would only add that that number is lower than last year's free cash number.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the mandate, was to make sure that we were around or lower than last year, and that number did come in slightly under
Yep.
what we
Great.
appropriated last year. So we also had the discussion, of course, again, that, it was a lot. The reason why we were able to do this year is because we got it all out last year. About how, of course, this is outside of our financial policies. We should not be spending free cash to balance the budget, but we have so much of it that it would look really bad to the town if we were like, hey, we've got $11 million sitting in the bank, let's have an override to keep with our financial policies. That would not be well received. So that's why it was a lot shorter discussion when it came to it.
Yeah. And the GIC health insurance update, it's being budgeted at 9%. And Sean, was Jeff confident it would stay at 9? I know he said the GIC didn't vote on all the plans. Is there still a chance that could go up a little bit, or he felt like 9 was good?
I don't know when the final vote is happening, but they seemed pretty confident
Yeah.
about the 8 to 9%, whereas they were at like 10+%.
Yeah.
So that helped a little bit, but then I think some things came
Came in
a little bit in
lower.
the opposite direction. Our
Yes.
Tech
Yeah.
Voc
Yes.
enrollment has been increasing, and as everybody discusses the importance of Tech Voc instruction, Blue Hills has a pretty increased enrollment for Norwood, and that's causing us to have to pay more on our cherry sheet, so
Yeah.
that had to go increase a little bit. So we'll have to keep watching that.
Mhm.
More and more students from Norwood are attending the Tech Folk schools, and I think it's moving to like a lottery system now, so it's going to be different in the future, so we may see even more students going there.
Yeah.
So will you just, that clicked a little bit, that the change in state law is moving our regional vocational schools to a lottery system, where based on the regions that feed into it,
Mhm.
are then assigned a certain amount of seats and it's lottery-based.
That's my understanding.
Okay.
I don't know the complete understanding, but I know it's moving to a lottery-based, yeah.
I think this was the first
It
year.
was the first,
Yeah.
this year
Right.
was the first year, it was a lottery-based.
Yes.
In a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
so we sell 18 additional NORD
18,
students,
yeah.
which is $500,000. So, the GIC number came down, this number went up.
Right.
I know the town sees this for the future as a little bit of a wild card. We have no control over how this lottery system is gonna play out. And I think it's usually around this time in March that you find out.
Yeah.
So it's not really something that in future budget cycles you'd be able to plan for until March.
Right.
Which is something that BBC and the school committee will have to keep on their radar. But Jeff O'Neill also did look at the receipts on the town side, made some modifications on that end as well, which is why we were able to say, okay, yes,
Great.
we will approve applying $7,368,224 of free cash to balance the budget.
And there was one more point that Mr. Fleming from the FinCom made, and that we wanted to be clear about, that this budget represents a level services budget from last year. This is not increasing, this is not, just to make sure that the public understands, we didn't add a whole bunch of positions to any government branch. There's no school mass hiring, no town mass hiring, there's nothing like that. And we were all very confident that each of the departments had really done their due diligence to like cut where they could cut and to make sure that we were providing the same services that we were in the previous fiscal year.
So the increase is just a reflection of the fact that inflation.
Inflation, contractual obligations.
Which I consider to be part
Yep.
of inflation.
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And
But
as
I-
Mr. Manuel tell us, we're still at
Yeah.
2.9.
We're still-
Yeah, no, yeah.
Yep.
That's,
I do think the town is planning on an override for public safety, though. I think
Yes.
that's still
Yeah.
being discussed, so there is
That
going
was,
to be.
that was voted and approved by the selectmen
Yeah.
last night.
So there's going to be a specific town safety override.
no, there's gonna be a warrant, right, as
Yeah.
to whether or not that happens.
Well, it would have to go to town meeting first, and then
Exactly.
there'd
And
have
then
to be
the
a,
ballot.
there'd have to be a ballot vote.
Right, so,
Yeah.
But that aside, the town is fairly we're certainly level service.
Yeah, so exactly to that point, where it's level service, and if there is going to be an increase, that's the town's plan for their increase on their side.
Yeah.
We do not have the same plan right now.
No,
No.
we do not.
Oh, that's okay. I can-
And then just the last thing I'd say
And then
before
one first.
Mr. Manning goes into his presentation, obviously, very soon, the two of us who have been leading budget will not be in these seats. So we've been talking at Budget Subcommittee about that sustainability and utilizing us to help prepare the rest of you for taking over the budget work. We meet again next Wednesday, March 11th, 12:30 to 2:30, and we really would encourage as many of our colleagues as possible to observe. You are allowed to observe. And then something I dropped the ball on over the summer was finishing that Budget Subcommittee handbook. So Mr. Luff and I are working on that. I think we're going to review it at next week's Budget Subcommittee meeting
Great.
and then bring to all of you on March 18th.
Okay.
And we're
Excellent.
still on target for the budget hearing on March 18th as well.
Great, great. Excellent. Okay, anything else from budget sub? No?
Okay.
Ms. Mannion, I'll turn it over to
go-
you.
Go right into the memo. So you have a memo here. It's the superintendent's proposed FY '27 update on the budget. I'll try to channel Superintendent Luff here. As you can see, there's a couple links here. We'll go through a presentation, short presentation after we talk about the bullet points in the memo. It also, you can link to the full budget, so the budget is there if you want to look at every line item. We're still at a 2.96% increase. We haven't changed our overall increase at all. And we are preparing for the public budget hearing on March 18th and the vote for the school committee on March 25th. So at this point in time, what was the preliminary budget is now the superintendent's proposed budget. We still are at a 2.96% increase. We've heard all those PowerPoint presentations on all the major areas. We haven't made any changes up until this point, but now we're putting forth a few changes to the budget. So, first of all, we are recommending a 2% increase to fees. It's a small increase to fees across the board that we discussed recently. It'll add about $22,000 in revenue. Most of that revenue will just be held in the revolving funds. It sort of helps us cover the programs that those fees go to. We had a lot of discussion last time about busing. We are at this point adding a 17th bus, so we're at 16 buses. We're doing great elementary and high school. Middle school is very crowded. We had talked about limiting stops under a mile, but at the end of the day, we said, we kind of promised that we wouldn't change busing when we went to the middle school. So at this point, at least, we're adding a 17th bus. That's the Connolly, that's the yellow buses. It's $92,000 that we add. We offset that a little bit by the fee revenue, so the bus fee will go up from $275 to $280. That's about $9,000 that we can account for, as well as participation in the fee, because at this point with the elementary redistricting, kindergarten students now will not be free. They're going to have to pay. A certain amount of them will be close to the school, but the rest will need to pay. And with the redistricting of other areas, such as Windsor Gardens, they're not going to be over 2 miles anymore, so it is expected that all elementary students who ride will be subject to the fee. Of course, we have financial waivers. It's very robust. I get the applications and I approve them as they come in. But that will add participation to our fee. We expect to get about $38,000 from that. So those will help offset the bus. A couple of these positions we've talked about, and at this point we are ready to put these forth in the budget. So we are reducing the director of ELE position. It saves about $135,000 in the budget. And what we're going to do is add stipends for leadership and department chairs of $10,000. We're not exactly sure how that will shape out, but that will help to cover some of those duties of the evaluations and things that happen under the ELE. We are also adding a paraprofessional for a K classroom. We expect that we need a para for each K classroom. We're not really changing that model at this point, so that's $30,000 plus 1 FTE. We are holding a teacher, just an elementary teacher. We don't know where it will be in abeyance, so we're adding $81,000 to cover the salary for one elementary teacher, but we're not putting the FTE in at this point. It's a wait and see how the enrollments come here when the registrations happen, and if we need this teaching position, we'll have the money already available in the budget. And then we're also allocating $14,000 from the ELE director position towards the bus that we mentioned. We're also reducing the TV studio manager. We're having a retirement at the end of this year. We've had a great amount of service from the person who's done that, Mr. Tolman. But we are going to reduce that position and instead add $50,000 in stipends that will, you can see on the bullet, a range of things from audiovisual, sound support, house manager, video production, school event coverage. We're not exactly sure what the plan will be. It may be multiple people sharing those duties and getting stipends for that. Additionally, we're going to add an elementary paraprofessional in abeyance. So again, we're going to wait until we hear how the enrollments come through, but we're adding $30,000, but not adding an FTE at this moment. And then $31,000 from that position will go towards the bus that we mentioned. And then lastly, we discussed at Budget Subcommittee, and we've had a request from the high school for the Pathways programs that goes back to when it was founded like 5 years ago for 2 teacher positions. And we ultimately decided that we would assume a little bit more circuit breaker credit, $91,000 more in circuit breaker credit. We do have a reserve sort of in the circuit breaker line, so it comes away from our reserve a little bit, and add 2 teaching positions. They're each $81,000. When we do that, we get to reduce our online coursework with BYU, Brigham Young. So we actually get to reduce online coursework by $79,000. So that almost covers one of these positions. But we add the $91,000 in circuit breaker, and we're up 2 FTEs there. If these elementary positions, the teacher and the kindergarten teacher, and the kindergarten para, or the two elementary positions, the teacher and the para, don't come through, we'll take that money and put it back into the circuit breaker. So we'll kind of hold that money in abeyance, see if we need those FTEs. If not, we'll put the money back to the circuit breaker, and then we can hold it for the future in case there's another need that comes up during the year. And then you'll see later item on the warrant articles. There's 3 warrant articles. One of those does impact the budget. It's Medicaid funding, and it will be the second year we're asking for this funding. It covers 3 teachers, or 3 Unit A positions. They're related service providers that are not in our budget. So it is important funding because it does cover 3 positions. Lastly, we're looking at student services and ELE positions. They're being evaluated to determine placements and caseloads. We may need additional counseling, social work as requested at the middle school, but we're not doing anything at this moment because we don't have enough information. So that's a wait and see. And then below that, it just recaps all of the budgetary memo, the budgetary information from the preliminary budget memo, if you want to recap that. So with that, I'll go into the presentation, which shouldn't take much. If you can open up the presentation. Or do you want me to open it? Okay.
Yeah, I am gonna, before we go into the presentation. I have a question, the Medicaid, the Mass Health reimbursements. This is the OTs and the PTs, right, who are doing direct services and doing the billing?
That way I can click.
Sean.
This is on that specifically, I think we have 2, there's many related services. So we took OTPTs off the IDA grant and moved on PARA so that we could claim OTPTs because you can't be paid by a federal grant. But these 3 positions specifically were 2 that we always had in the budget, and I think it's 1 speech at the middle school and 2 BCBAs. So for Medicaid, we can claim speech and language, we can claim OTPT, we can claim BCBA.
So I'm just trying to translate the direct, I'm trying to translate what you said into like lay speak. These are folks who are providing direct services. We're billing Medicaid for it.
Yes.
Medicaid can, or Mass Health can only reimburse to the town, so we're asking for the town to basically transfer that money back over to us.
Exactly. And you'll see a little bit more on it, but basically we've been in discussions with the town, our town partners, about how can we get these funds, these Medicaid funds, directly to the school. We don't have a mechanism yet that we've agreed on, so last year we did the warrant article, and we hashed this out in BBC, and everybody overwhelmingly said, let's do another 1-year warrant article. It'll be a good opportunity for the town to hear about it again. So we're basically, the funds are, we do the work on the funds, we do the services, the funds go to the town. So we have to request it at town meeting until we can get an agreement on a revolving account of some kind or a mechanism where the funds would come straight to the school district.
What's the holdup on this seems pretty basic.
Well, we're just trying to figure out how it can fit within the town finance policies, because technically the funds go straight to the town. So some municipalities set up a revolving account. It depends on the town bylaws. But we thought, town meeting only heard about it once. We asked for the 300,000. Let's do it again. We can update them, explain what we're doing. We have increased the revenue, so that we can show that we've increased the revenue.
That was a point of discussion too, just to so you understand. Like, we also discussed the 300,000, and there was I think a misunderstanding that we were going to just keep going for the 300,000, and I said no, we want it all. Yeah. That's kind of the point, is that we are funding these positions who now can dedicate more time to getting that reimbursement, and we're increasing the reimbursement, and so this is the point.
Yeah.
And there are some in the town and town government who've said, well, you get it anyway. It comes to us as free cash, but then it's going to come to you in the budget anyway when you ask for the budget. It's not, it's an indirect way you're still getting it.
But it's a direct service billing based on.
Exactly, right. So this has been the exact conversation that we've had, that
So if we bill for 50, will they still give us 300?
Right.
Because that's right, that's the downside of that.
Yeah,
of that argument.
and that was exactly my argument when we had that meeting, was the increase is there because we have the staff dedicated to it, and it increases the compliance and the incentive to do more billing, because you're seeing it, come in into a revolving fund that's funding that thing specifically. That's your incentive to keep that revolving fund healthy. So it was just kind of at that time, we at least got from, why are we doing this, to, okay, let's do one more year of warrant article, and let the town see it again before we go ahead and try to create a revolving account and create the mechanism to get
Just a standing warrant article that says everything about X that comes in.
We
gets-
talked about that too.
There's
to
many
be
options.
honest.
One option is we make an agreement and, set up a
Yeah.
revolving, and maybe we have to go to a future town meeting. Another is you could do a warrant article every year. It's just, here's our warrant article to request the Medicaid. We made this much, and we request the article
I
every
mean,
year.
essentially, the way
It's like
we.
snow services, right? Like, if
Or-
it doesn't snow, they don't bill us. If it snows a ton, we don't say sorry.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a very good analogy.
We're not paying
Yeah.
for our
It's a
snow
very
and
good
ice.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
No.
Okay, we can drop it. Sorry, I just wasn't
No,
sure.
No, no,
That
no,
was a
that's a
good-
good thing to
it's a
discuss.
good one to
and
discuss.
It's a
understand.
great-
Yeah, not everyone's watching BBC
Great
in the
discussion
middle of the
and
day.
question
Yeah.
and all of that. So
Ron,
appreciate
isn't
it.
the number 350 though, not 300,000?
It's 300, that's what we did in the warrant article.
That's what we did last year.
Because in the BBC material, Jeff has 350.
Or maybe
I
I thought we did
increase it.
350.
I don't know.
We should check.
I can, we
Yeah.
can
We
check
We
on
should just
that.
double check, because we don't want to go down.
No.
But this past year, I think, Mr. Mannion, we've already been reimbursed, the town's been reimbursed like 530, is that what you said?
Last year we made, yeah, and it does lag, but
Yeah.
we can talk about that. But yeah, we
Yeah.
increased it by about 160,000. It went up to 530 last year. So we're watching the receipts. Before town meeting, I should be able to have an updated receipt.
I think one of the things I brought up, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the final reimbursement, I don't even think comes until after the Springtown meeting.
It's rolling. There's quarterly and there's
Right,
direct.
and so there was
yeah.
that to me was the problem with
Yeah.
a warrant article at the Springtown meeting, so we won't know what that final
Oh, yeah.
reimbursement number
Until-
is to be able to
yeah.
pull it in for the next year.
Yeah.
There.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry,
All
I
right.
didn't mean to.
So this
Can of
is
worms.
a few slides just to recap where we are. If you go to the next slide. So a quick recap on our overall budget. Our original 26 budget was 577.3 FTEs at 65.3 million. We adjusted that mostly with that IDEA change. We took some paras and put them on the IDEA grant. We took the OTPTs off, so we actually, our adjusted FTE for this year is just shy of 570. It's 569.9. Our preliminary budget was level service, no change in FTEs. It was a 2.96% increase. And at this point, we're still at the 2.96. We're at +1 FTE because we reduced the TV manager and the director. We added the 2 high school teachers, and then we also added that 1K paraprofessional. So we're at +1 FTE. We're still at 2.96%, and an increase of 1.9 million. Go back one. This shows the overall increases. So again, when we look at our budget, the base salaries, just the collective bargaining, the salaries themselves, we would be going up 4.3%. But luckily, next year, we are seeing a reduction, a planned reduction in 4 to 5 very costly residential placements, so we're able to lower our out-of-district tuition. That's great, because the trend is typically up on those. That lowers our budget by about 1.1 million. And then we look at all those other increases. We were able to stay very level service with transportation, equipment. There were some areas where we saved because we had bought laptops for the Coakley project, so we were able to reduce that for 1 year only. Overall, we were able to come down, stay very level there. That brought us to our overall increase, and you can see the recent list that you see doesn't change the amount because it's all cost neutral. It just adds 1 FTE. This is just the cost drivers. We've seen this before on the salary. So when you think about that 4.3% that we would need to increase on salaries, these are the drivers of why that happens. Even without adding any FTEs, we have, teachers, 83% of our budget is salaries. We go up by step increases, by column transfers, COLAs, things like that. Next year is actually the 3rd year of the contract, so we do have to add a new step for those very senior teachers. This shows the breakdown by the big cost areas. So you can see overall district administration is going up 4.5%. You can note that at $2 million, that's about 3% of our overall budget. Instructional services, by far the largest part of our budget. That's probably 78, close to 80% at 52.6 million. That's going up for the 4.3% of all those teacher salaries and everything. It's also going up the 2 FTEs. The director of ELE position is in the 2000s, and the paraprofessional is there too. So we're going up 2, but we're going down 1. That's also balanced out by the paraprofessional. The other school services includes nursing, it includes the TV manager, it includes athletics, it includes transportation. We're very almost level service there, going up by only 99.9 thousand. We're reducing the one position there. Very modest increases in a lot of these other areas, and then you can see down on the tuition line, we're reducing there by the placements that we mentioned, as well as that 91,000 in additional circuit breaker that we have to use. That comes out of this line, so you can see we're going down there. The rest just kind of go through the budget. I don't need to go, if you click to the next one, you can see, if you go through these slides, you'll see anything that's changed from the preliminary to now, so you'll see where the new positions are and the reductions are added as you go through those slides. And then the full budget's there, as you can see, if anybody wants to view the whole entire budget, you can see the line-by-line item budget.
My favorite, the impossible Excel spreadsheet. That's one of my
Exactly.
favorite things to read. One of my favorite things to read.
And that's it.
Okay. Thank you to the committee. Questions, comments, concerns, queries?
I guess for budget sub purposes, we just need to know, David and Joan, if there's anything that we changed that you don't like, that you want us to talk about more before we come back for the budget hearing, or if you are supportive of the extra bus, the 2% fee increase, the 2 pathways teacher, and then the possible 2 elementary positions held in abeyance for now, which supports the elementary redistricting. So are those things that you support, or are those things that you have, questions or concerns around for the budget subcommittee?
Go ahead. You can
No,
start.
I was just going to say thank you to everyone for their work on this. I just want to highlight, I'm in full support. I will say, with a lot of the districts that are around us and being in the education field, like the district I work in, we're like $3 million in the hole. So like those cuts are real, and that stuff is coming. And I think in this environment, to be able to put together a budget that is level services is very impressive. And I think that it does the most. I think we get the most for our money, and I think we've been thoughtful in the way that we've had to, for lack of a better term, value engineer that together. So thank you, and I think that 2.96% is great. I think that it's lower than last year is all great. I hope our town partners are listening as we say that, because that is a pretty great accomplishment. So thank you.
So I've been on the school committee for a long time. I guess I'm in favor of everything that you guys added. I guess I'm like David, a little bit like how? I'm a little disbelieving. It's been a long time since we've had a budget come through where we're like, oh, okay, and not what school do you want to close? Or like last week we were talking about how, or 2 weeks ago, how do we cut the budget? Are we going to have our kids walk a mile in 3-degree weather?
Yeah.
So I guess I'm looking to you, budget subcommittee members. I can see that some of it's coming from, because the reduction in out-of-district placements is a big.
It's do you want me to kind of go through?
Yeah, just briefly,
Yeah.
and then what happens, I know we don't know a lot about those out-of-district placements, but my concern is like, is there a possibility that one of those we're gonna need one of those again, and then what does that do to our budget? Like, is it just too early to be excited? Like, okay.
Well, the out of district, we're still, when you're looking at what was budgeted, we're under what was budgeted, right? We're not over.
We're under what was budgeted this year. We were
Yeah.
doing well, last year. The trend has been good for us here in Norwood.
Yeah.
We're seeing with
Knock on wood.
Superintendent Love and with Miss Davy, they're really evaluating, like, when somebody gets outplaced, like, what are the criteria to bring them back in district, So our numbers haven't been escalating, which is, and plus the rates a few years ago, of course, everyone got hit with the OSD rate.
Yeah.
But I will say that we're able to do this. They have looked at the figures. They know that these students are aging out. It's just a year where we're kind of getting a windfall because we have 3 to 5 very costly placements that are going to age out. What makes me more confident with that, and I know the superintendent feels the same, is now that we have our SPED reserve fully funded at $1.5 million,
Okay.
plus we have some reserve in our circuit breaker, we can do this budget because we know if something doesn't go our way and tuition can be volatile, we have those to fall back on. we're not basing our budget on our sped reserve anymore. We don't use it to balance our budget, so it's a true reserve there. So we've got a couple of reserves there, which allows us to be more confident in making this reduction. So we'll have to watch it when we get into next year. We'll know where all the placements shake down, and of course, we'll be doing quarterly updates next year and see where we land. But all of the information right now tells us that we're going to see these age outs, and we have increased the rates on the other one, so we are adding a rate increase on top of everything. You'll see it when you see the full budget book, but we are assuming this reduction in the residential placements are the most costly placements. So seeing 3 or 4 of those in 1 year is very unusual, but we're seeing that.
So we're not kicking the can down the road.
No, but I think the way I look at it, and I'll try to be brief. No, brevity is not my art form, but I'll try. So the first step of it is what we did last year, right? Like, we really worked hard getting a lot of things into the budget last year for the middle school, which we promised with the new building. And through the work that Sean and JJ and Tim did with reorganizing department chairs and the PLC communities, like, we accomplished a lot last year that was in the budget this year, so we didn't have to try to get it in. It was already there, it was protected. Tim made great strides to reorg already. Then this year, as you go through the memo that we have in front of us, there's some reorg and movement. So past years, perhaps instead of reorging, we would have just been told add more in. But I think Tim and Sean work really well together at looking at what can be reorganized and restructured. And the things that we got in for tonight, the bus and the 2 teachers, that all came through some reorganization and also really responsibly looking at circuit breaker. So I think that's part of it. But another big piece, Joan, honestly, is that we're using free cash. So if Monday's BBC meeting went differently and BBC did not say, yes, we're going to recommend you use free cash, then we would have been having the conversation of cuts.
Okay.
And that's the piece that I think the community has to understand, because even with like the fiscal responsibility of our administrative team and the creativity of looking at how to move things around, our portion of that free cash is like 4.5 million, right?
I think so.
So we could have been talking about 4.5 million in cuts. And although the past couple of years, like we keep hearing from our town counterparts, oh, we didn't anticipate we would have so much free cash. It's never going to happen again. At some point, it's not going to happen. And I think that's the part that the community just has to realize. Nobody's being deceptive here. We're all being very transparent. We're all doing the best that we can. And also, we're in a situation where we need that free cash to balance our budget.
So a structural deficit still exists.
It does with that free cash. Yeah.
Our budget, the school committee budget, is coming in essentially level services. There's some moving around, but
Yep.
it's addressing needs, shifting needs, as happens in a complex system.
Yep.
And free cash continues to ride in and save the day. But we also have fully funded, so it's a little bit different than when we first came on, because we have when I first came on, because we have fully funded reserve funds, stabilization funds that function as a buffer. So that's a little bit of a step up. Okay, and there's been no cuts to curriculum, general ed, any of those things. Fantastic. Okay.
Level service.
No, if anything, as we've talked to JJ, maybe a reorganization of when we do some of those curriculum refreshes and things
Yeah.
like that, because just it doesn't make sense to do
Okay.
2 in 1 year, that type of thing that we talked about. Like, the teachers are like, we can't do 2 in 1 year.
So we're not pushing them off because of money. We're pushing them
Absolutely
off
not.
because of bandwidth. Okay.
And we
Or
haven't
just-
we haven't pushed anything off yet,
Okay.
because
Right,
for instance,
exactly.
we're doing
There's
math in
the
ELA this
discussion.
year, but next year we're supposed to be elementary math. We're not going to do elementary ELA this year and elementary math next year.
Because it's too much.
That's
Yeah.
way too much.
Okay.
But
Or-
we will do something else instead.
Okay.
Or that discussion, also I think about, maybe it was social studies, you'll have to remind me, but that when the review actually happens, it doesn't need to be refreshed because it's still.
Right.
Okay.
That type of thing, but it wouldn't be because of, it would still be
I
there
just-
in the budget to be done if needed.
Yeah.
And I think we've
Then-
been fortunate enough to get some grants that we didn't anticipate getting. Obviously, the SEL 311 is a smaller grant, but something like the PRISM grant was a ton of money.
Yeah.
And that allows us to do some work without having to use a lot of my PD budget or a lot of title funds. And so, like, things like that have been helping as well. I think that we finally figured out how to use the grants wisely, so we're not asking for the general fund to fund something when we can actually write a grant for it.
Okay. Okay, sorry, I just,
No,
No, that's a good
it's,
question.
I think
how
it's a good
often
question.
do
I
we
think-
have
You and me
good
both.
news around budget?
No, I think
Never.
this is a great, and I was gonna say, in my
Jinx
opinion,
us.
it's my turn to like give the accolades and to thank our
Yeah.
administrative team for just like the hard work, the diving in, the seeing
Yeah.
where things can be removed, moved, you know, and what really needs to happen, where is the money coming from, where is it going, where can we get it from, and just being really diligent about it. I think it's been an overall, yeah, nice thing.
Yeah.
I'm going out on a high on this one, I'm telling you. I don't care, if 7 million in free cash or not, I'm like really excited about this budget.
Good.
But quickly, David, I do also want to say, this is why the budget subcommittee work really matters, because Anne Marie and I ask so many questions. Sorry, JJ, sorry, Sean. Sorry, Tim, if you're watching, sorry, Hugh, you get my questions too. We ask so many questions, and we work together, because at that last subcommittee meeting, like, I personally said it was really important that I felt that we get those 2 pathways teachers in, because we've been talking about it for 5 years, and we've approved it in a school improvement plan for 5 years. And you've all heard me say before, if we approve a school improvement plan or we approve something, why is it not in our budget? And if we can't get it in our budget, why are we approving things? And Sean and Tim took that feedback, and we had a great discussion, and we looked at circuit breaker. But this is where that dialogue and that trust to like disagree and work together is so important, and people don't see it because we're not televised in budget subcommittee, but a lot of really hard work happens, and Anne Marie and I often come at things from 2 very different perspectives, which is so
Which
valuable.
It's actually great.
So I don't know if that.
And then
answers
sometimes
Yeah,
I
that
have to
does.
channel my inner Teresa when I'm like, Teresa has asked for this for the past 4 years, and you're still not looking at it. And you're kind of lucky she's not here right now, so.
Okay.
Excellent. Thank you. Sean, do you have anything else on the budget itself?
No, we'll be working on our budget book, so given that school committee's feedback is this is the budget to go with, we'll be working on a budget book, hopefully to have for subcommittee to review next week. So we'll have sort of a budget book before the public hearing, and then we'll have the vote on March 25th.
Excellent.
The only last thing
Um,
I'd say is we are going to the Finance Commission tomorrow, so.
That's true.
Sean, Tim,
Thank you,
Anne Marie,
yep.
and I to defend this to them.
Yep.
And then they don't vote until the end of March. We may have to go back at the end of March, but tomorrow we'll present all this.
And
to
they're
them.
basically going to be seeing this memo and presentation. So.
Great. Anything else?
I can wait until that.
If not, thank you. But Sean will keep it moving with you with some of the Springtown meeting warrant articles.
Want to pull up that memo, or you want me to pull it?
got it.
Okay, so we've talked a lot. We're going to have 3 warrant articles that we would like you to support. I think ideally we'd like a vote of the school committee support on those tonight, because drafts are due on Friday to the town for the spring warrants. So the first warrant, as you can see, is the Medicaid one, which we just discussed. It's the second year we're asking for this. I think it's 300,000. I'll verify that.
I found the yellow sheet from last year.
Okay.
It was 300.
Okay, so.
That was why I was like, oh, wait.
Yeah.
It basically covers 3 related service providers. It's 1 speech and language and 2 BCBA's. 2 were in the budget prior to this year, and 1 was a new position that we added. We're basically going back to town meeting to do the same warrant article, give them more information. We need more time to talk about the mechanism for what we want to do in future years with this funding. But we are, doing the claims, we're bringing in the money, and we're just looking for a way to get that back into our school, to the positions that actually do those claims. Second is a CPC study. So this is a CPC warrant article. It's $49,450. We had 2 schools put forth playground proposals to the CPC that were $200,000 plus. The cost of playgrounds has really escalated in recent years. They're not small PTO projects anymore. It's likely in the future that these will be on the capital plan, or a combination of capital plan plus CPC and maybe even a little bit of PTO funds. But what we would like to do is have a comprehensive study of the school playgrounds. This would go out to hire a vendor to look at them, give us a priority list, give us conditions, give us a study of them, integrate that with the town. The rec department has theirs, so that we can have a sort of town-wide look at the playgrounds. And then once that's done, we can really make sort of a targeted request at capital for the town to like start replacing some of the playgrounds. And the last warrant article is for a townwide facilities study, the appropriation of a sum of money we don't know yet. The goal of this would be to update the study that was done in 2017, so a very thorough study was done of the school buildings, but it has been some time. You know, we've got a new middle school now, we've done a lot of projects at the schools. We want to update that and update it for the whole town and put it into sort of a capital infrastructure look at the entire town. We want to focus on elementary buildings now because we've got a new high school, relatively new, and we've got a new middle school. So from the school side, our look will be at the Savage Center and at the elementary schools. And the ultimate goal to develop an updated long-range capital plan for the town's building infrastructure to inform future decisions.
Excellent.
We'd like to get your support on these 3 warrant articles.
Okay, so we would definitely want to take a vote on all 3, but I want to sort of put it to the committee to chat. I will say first, I'll go first. I like all of these, but I want to specifically call out the townwide facilities study. This is something we've talked about. This is something with our town partners, specifically our facilities department has talked about this because there are all these buildings and the town of Norwood actually owns a lot of buildings that you would be kind of surprised that they own. There was a building I learned we own this year, which was interesting to me. Along with this,
Now I
and
know,
if
I
you
don't know what
guys,
building it is.
I know.
if you guys have not read, there is a petition that is going to town meeting about excess funds for building projects. So I think that's specifically targeted from the middle school. Again, this is not an exact number I'm going to say, but we will be in the range of probably $6 to $8 million left from the Coakley project. I know that we as a committee have talked about that. I will be bringing this up at MSBC next week. But there needs to be a discussion around what we would look for that. And I think that if we do this townwide facility study and get that, some of the limits that are placed when you have a override for a debt exclusion, meaning you're building something and you are over, like 25, 30, 35 years paying the way it was written is that it, if there's leftover, it has to stick with something like that. I know the town feels, well, it's town money. It's like, well, it's also the MSBA state money. I long way of saying, I think it should stay with the schools. And I think that we really have it in here that if we do this townwide facilities study with some of that leftover money, that we could then sort of continue to push that process for elementary schools. But that's a long way of saying that. So that is my only comment. I appreciate all of everyone else's work on that, and I will turn it over to the rest of the committee. Yes.
This has nothing to do with the warrants, but
Excellent.
because you brought up the middle school building committee, and the $6 to $8 million, what did, we value engineered a ton out of that project.
Yes.
So if we have $6 to $8 million left over,
6 to 8, not 68.
that's what I'm,
I know.
okay, $6 to $8
Perfect.
million left over. What didn't we put back in?
A lot got put back in.
Most
Yeah.
got back in.
But one of the things that we also, and it was covered and reported on, but I think sometimes people don't understand is that early on in the project, before we
That's what I
started
remembered.
building with inflation,
Yes, that's,
we
yeah.
lobbied the state. The state came to our cohort. Ours was one of the cohorts in the MSBC or the MSBA at that time, where they increased funding to help. So a part of that is, it's not like they're going to rescind it, but they recognize that in this time with costs out of control,
Yeah.
we needed to support that. And if you look at some of the projects that we're in, some of them, that's what got them to break even. We had a really good team that was fiscally responsible, and we're benefiting from that fiscal responsibility is, like I said, the way I'd say it.
Yeah. I say whoever gets into our seats after this, they better keep this crap going. I just feel like we finally have got people fiscally responsible in town.
It's important. So hopefully that's my rant for the day. Anyone else on any of the other 3?
No, you're gonna have to tell me after the meeting what building you had no idea though, because, no, you'd be curious.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to approve the warrant articles.
Okay.
With one, are we confident about the 300, or we think it might be
I-
350?
I did find it in the yellow sheets that last year it was 300.
That we asked for.
We asked for 300 last year.
3 positions only cost 300,000? They're not each like 112 to 120?
I mean, it depends on who you staff into those positions, but those tend to be more senior teachers, so their salaries are probably around the 300 or more.
Yeah.
Originally, we thought it would cover, we were looking at more like if we added, incoming teachers plus their benefits, but they're not, 300,000 isn't covering the benefits. It's probably almost covering the salaries. It may not quite cover all the salaries.
Is there
Yeah.
room for discussion to increase it to
So
350?
I'd like to make a motion to approve all 3 warrant articles as written with the exception of number 1, to give the budget subcommittee and BBC representatives the authority to go between 300 and 350, depending on whatever BBC had said for this year.
Well, they didn't specify. They didn't.
Oh.
These warrant
See,
articles.
okay, I thought that they had specified.
No, in one of the spreadsheets from Jeff, it said 350,
I
but no,
retract
the
my motion.
BBC did not talk about the warrant articles. FinCom will definitely review
Yeah.
Yes.
the warrant articles. These warrant articles are due to Board of Selectmen on Friday, correct?
Yeah, but the first draft, so we still have time to amend the amounts. So
Amend
we
the
just need
amount.
to basically get the warrants that we're expecting to take. We can still edit, I think.
If it's the will of the committee, could we start with 350? See how it goes tomorrow with the Finance Commission. If there's a lot of pushback over that additional 50,000, then we can always
Yeah, because we
modify it.
did discuss this in BBC, just to your point about the fact that we were gonna be around 500 or so thousand, and the idea was to get not just a continual 300,000, but to get the whole amount.
Okay, so I'll amend my motion. I'm making a motion to approve the warrant articles as written with the exception of the Mass Health Medicaid funds, and we will delegate the amount requested to the budget subcommittee based upon conversations with town partners to be between $300,000 and $350,000.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, we can just take a voice vote.
Yeah,
We're
weird,
all here.
huh?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Lovely, so that passes 4-0. I
Not used
haven't
to
done a
hearing all
voice
the
vote,
voices
I know,
I
it's
know.
like kind of exciting, voice votes. Alrighty, will those pass? Thank you very much,
Thank you.
and good luck at FinCom tomorrow and with our town partners. With that, to legislative advocacy, so I'll turn it back over to Teresa and Marie.
Yeah, so you have some information in the packet that Sean and Tim put in there from the Massachusetts Association of School Superintendents. I think this
Mhm.
came from the conference that Dr. Luff was just at.
We were at a legislative.
Oh, the legislative breakfast
Yep.
institute, I'm sorry.
Do you want me to go through just quickly the top
Yeah.
items?
Yeah, that'd be great.
So,
That's
yeah,
something that's nice about it.
Superintendent and Dr. Munoz and I all attended the legislative breakfast roundtable that they have every year. It's a good event to hear about things that are there. It's district personnel and also local legislators and their offices are there. So if you look, I included the bullet list of their priorities from that meeting as well as the slide deck, but just to go through some of the priorities. So number 1 is strengthening special education circuit breaker. There's a number of bills here. They really recognize that special education costs are going up all over the place. I do feel like we're doing well here in Norwood. We're doing well because we have our in-house transportation. We're also doing well with the out-of-district, so I feel sort of lucky sitting where we're sitting, but it's always a volatile area and a lot of districts are struggling as it always happens. They're looking to increase the circuit breaker rate, which is maxed at 75%, up to 90%. That would be like $1 million for us here in Norwood. That will cost the state a lot. I mean, some legislators said it's not necessarily the percentage, but just a commitment to fund it. So even if they went up to 90%, that wouldn't necessarily mean the state budget could fund that 90% of the year, because we've seen years where they haven't funded the 75%. Just making sure they commit to fully funding it is important for us. They also talked about lowering the per student threshold. So before circuit breaker kicks in, it's 4 times the foundation amount. So it's whatever you spend, first you have to take off 4 times the foundation, and then circuit breaker reimburses you at 75%. So they were saying maybe we lower that to 3 times foundation. So that would make a good impact for us too. Second, of course, is Chapter 70. So they were talking about minimum aid. So Next year, we've looked at our Chapter 70. We are a minimum aid district. Almost 85% of districts are now because of enrollments going down. The Chapter 70 formula is not keeping up with this situation of enrollments declining. We're getting 70, right now, Chapter 70 is at 75 minimum per pupil, and it's like a little less than 400,000 increase here for Norwood. So if it did go to $150 per student minimum aid, we'd see more like 800,000 to 900,000, so that would be good for us. Those are the main ones. Rural school aid doesn't really affect us. They do want to continue to look at Chapter 70 inflation, you know, changing the way the inflation impacts Chapter 70, and that if it's a year where you've lost on inflation, you can true up this Chapter 70. Student transportation reimbursement is mostly for regional schools. They do want to look at Chapter 70. They want to look at the foundation budget, so I do believe they're looking at a foundation budget commission, which does impact Chapter 70. They specifically want to look at how districts facing enrollment declines, how Chapter 70 fits in with that, which is what a lot of the state is really seeing, a huge impact to the enrollment declines. And then lastly, they're looking at charter school reimbursements. That does help us a little bit. We get assessed when students go to the charter school. This isn't the tech folk schools, but the charter schools, and then we get some money back on a reimbursement. It's not a lot, but it does come off the cherry sheet. But really, the main things would be the circuit breaker and the Chapter 70.
Excellent. I want to pause for questions. I would actually like to start with the first one. I don't know how detailed you could get into this, but with rural school aid, and I don't mean to be negative, but generally, right, the farther west you go in Massachusetts, the less populated the schools are. Have they thought about, instead of fully funding rural school aid, maybe making more tax incentive things for regional schools? Or I don't know, maybe using the MSBA, like we saw them their first 10 years basically do suburbs, and now we've seen them, you know, there are like 3 regional voc schools that have gotten rebuilt. Brockton, obviously, as a city, is in, and some of the larger school districts are starting to do that. Have they thought about maybe doing that instead of?
They definitely mentioned that the SOA, you know, was benefiting the large urban districts. I mean,
Where the
the
population-
enrollment declines are really hitting the rural districts.
Yes.
I mean, that's not Norwood, but I mean, you can, here, when we see the enrollment go down, we can still move classrooms around, and
Mhm.
you can't close a school when you only have one grade 1 classroom and you've
Yeah.
got 10 students. Like, the economies of scale really don't help those rural school districts.
No, but the examples that I use are like the Cape and Islands. So you have Nantucket Regional, Martha's Vineyard Regional. 8-10 years ago, Provincetown had a high school, and now it's all at Nauset, and they rebuilt Nauset.
Regionalized.
Right, so I don't know.
I think regional,
Sorry.
yeah. They didn't really mention the regionalization, did they?
Of course not.
They've
Why would
taken
we
it.
communicate with similar programs to solve problems? That would make sense, folks. That would
Yeah.
make sense.
David, as we're talking this through, if I can just also, I shared with you guys earlier an email, the letter that we wrote last year.
Yes.
Which we've basically been writing the same letter for a couple of years now. And some of the topics are ones that Sean just took us through. But the topics that we've really been advocating for, and you can see in the letter, the first was around the review of Chapter 70 funding, with the goal of rectifying the funding formula to properly account for inflation. There's some numbers I referenced in the letter from last year that I would need to edit to be applicable to this year, but that's been like a steady advocacy point of ours for a while. The second one is around special education circuit breaker, and everything Sean just said is what we've been asking for. Increase to 90% reimbursement, the threshold per pupil cost to be lowered to 3 times instead of 4 times. We had some data in there. We've been asking for special education reserve funds because right now you can only have up to 2% of your net school spending in a reserve fund.
Yeah.
But there's been some efforts to get that increased higher to 5%. Sean, was that something talked about that you're aware of?
They didn't talk about that, the
No.
sped reserve. That, MASBO always talks about that.
Yeah, I
but
know
the,
Masville and
the
MASC
MAS
usually do.
They
And
didn't-
then to go back to our favorite topic of the night around Mass Health revenue, we've been advocating for change in the law that the retention of Mass Health goes directly to the school district. If you are a regional school district, that already happens. But in Norwood, it goes to the municipality, and then every year we have to play a game, is how it feels to me. So I think we've been asking for about 4 years now to our representatives to try to change legally, so the retention of Medicaid, Mass Health revenues go directly to the school district,
Yeah.
similar to how Circuit Breaker comes directly to us.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last couple of years, we also just broadly asked them to keep their eye on mental health funding, since there is, ongoing continued need for students and the community around mental health. So that was our letter from last year. Most of what Sean mentioned is in there, some are not, and then there's some extras. So I guess what I would just need to know from everybody tonight, which topics do you want in our next letter? And then I can work on it and, change the figures if needed, work with Sean and Tim. And then hopefully we could vote on it at the next meeting.
So you would not, this is just to talk about it, we wouldn't need a vote tonight, you'd come back, adjust. and
Yeah, I
then we could do
didn't
that.
write a letter
Okay.
yet, I just
Yeah.
shared last year's.
No, which is great.
Yeah, I mean, typically what, so Jody Smith, who used to be the principal of the Teachers Association, so Josh, you might have to do this with me. Typically, the past couple of years, Jody and I have been setting up meetings with John Rogers and Mike Rush, and meeting with them. If you want me to do that, obviously, I'd have to try to get them to do it soon in the month of March, and I would encourage somebody else to be part of that meeting with me. Every year they say they understand. Every year they say, well, oh, you're supposed to get your Medicaid money. Every year they say, well, Chapter 70 is supposed to go to the schools. And every year I say, well, can you just legislate it a little differently so what you're telling me is supposed to happen actually does happen. But they have been supportive. And, David, to your point, one of the things that we did very early on during the pandemic, advocate with John Rogers, was to fix the formula funding for MSBA. We were one of the first districts to reach out, and that was a success. We did see those results.
Yeah, which is great. My comment would be the letter looks fine, and I would say, go ahead, update.
I mean, I would say
Yes.
to push on the Chapter 70 SOA.
Yeah.
Just because, and that's just something we keep talking about, the SOA is fully funded, but it's in Chapter 70, but we have no mechanism for saying what's funded. It's just
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Mhm.
It's ridiculous that they tie the SOA to the Chapter 70 funding, that they don't know actually where every dime comes
Yeah.
from, but,
Right.
yeah.
And I'm partial to the bumping, the circuit breaker reimbursement from 75 to 90.
Yep.
As well as the transportation
Okay.
stuff.
So I can edit
So
the
take your
letter.
pick.
I can edit the letter, make sure the figures are up to date, use some of the language that Sean and JJ and Tim, you guys got from MESS, and bring it back.
Excellent.
Josh, does that seem okay, since you guys are gonna co-sign it with us?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we understand as a union and having negotiated with the committee, and the committee's representatives, obviously funding is the biggest part. And so a lot of these things, you get really caught in the trenches and sometimes it feels very defeating. So any clarification that we can support, to make sure that we're fighting the right fights.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say, I really do value the collaboration that the school committee has had with the union over the years. I don't see many other school committees co-signing advocacy letters with their union, and I think that's a strength. And I would encourage you to continue to do that in Norwood, even when I'm not in the seat.
There was one last thing one person mentioned at the meeting that and I don't know how sure this is, but there's a potential ballot question, and we're a long ways out, to lower the state income tax.
Yep.
And that could
Oh,
be
that's coming
absolutely
up.
devastating for school districts.
Yep.
That we really need to advocate that the impact would be huge.
Like in November, a ballot question?
Yeah,
Oh, they got the
lowering it,
numbers that
which,
they gotta be
yeah,
on.
so I don't know where we'll have to watch to see where that goes. But that would take a lot of revenue away from the state, which could really impact municipalities
Well,
and
unless-
school districts.
Unless they learn how to shift money around, but they don't.
And in addition, the federal government's going to not give as much funds to the state as well, so there'll be a.
I knew the budget conversation was way too easy.
This year. You have to take it year by year. You can only budget what's in front of you at the time.
But JJ,
Isn't there
if-
also legislation about basically replicating the MCAS? That there's gonna be a new,
There was a
yeah,
lot
Dave,
of-
you're stoked, I know, but like.
I told every one of you this was what was going to happen.
Well, they discussed the graduation departments. They're looking for something more flexible.
They did. They're waiting for the new commissioners, is that mean the right term here?
Yeah.
For him to come in and then, obviously, he's a former superintendent, he's the superintendent of Salem Public Schools right now, or was, and see what the graduation requirements are, but the person who is on the legislative people that heads up the education committee says that it won't be an immediate implementation or whatever it may be, so, but I didn't hear anything about actual test, it was more just the graduation requirements of aligning with what mass courts.
No guidance, so everyone does something differently.
Yeah, so they're trying to get
We-
everything
we
in
can't-
one.
Oh,
we
I
can't-
thought I heard that there was another test coming.
They didn't
I
mention
think
anything
they're
about a new
talking
assessment.
Okay.
Not yet. We can't go down that road tonight.
No, I know, I just
So-
curious. No, we should let Dr. Galligan come up so he can go
It's
home.
okay.
If I could just quickly clarify, that, JJ, the federal funding, we're not at risk losing FY '27, right? It's the following year, or are we at
It's
risk?
the following
year.
Okay.
Everything's good for 27.
Right.
They
Excellent.
passed the budget, and we're good for 27.
Just wanted to-
As far as we know.
Yeah, the politicians just want us to let us know that this is something they're thinking about, and they want to do all the things that we are asking them to do. However, they have to make choices, and so.
Well, the choices to be
First,
is
and
education.
those are the two things they brought up, was that the
Education
federal
infrastructure.
federal funding will be less to the states than projected.
Yep.
And if this question gets on the ballot, that everyone can vote to be a percent less in their taxes, their personal taxes, that it'll have an impact on state funds.
Okay.
One more quick question about the legislative breakfast. So I went last year, and we did not have any representatives from that, or would have represented Norwood. Did we have any this year?
No.
Or there, no, or there?
It was 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
No, our legislative.
Yeah.
Oh.
They
The-
were-
We just
people
hit
who
this
represented
bit.
Norwood or the people that you're
Oh.
hearing about right now?
Yeah.
Okay, so similar to last year, okay. Yeah, because usually, just for people who don't know, for the legislative breakfast, not always the actual legislators who go.
No.
It's, sometimes they send their chief of staff or somebody from their staff, one of their staffers. That's pretty common, and we did not have any for 2 years now.
Yeah, I would say at least 8 actual people were there,
Mhm.
and then there were some representatives after that. So maybe like 19 total for offices, but like 8 or 9 actual representatives were there at the breakfast.
Great.
But none from Norwood.
But none from Norwood.
Thank
None
you.
representing Norwood.
And no staffers either.
No staff.
Yeah, okay.
Excellent.
Dave, if I could just quickly say for everybody, if you do want to get more involved in legislative advocacy, there's 2 opportunities through MASC coming up. So on Friday, March 27th is their learning lunch on this topic, legislative advocacy from 12 to 1. And then on Monday, March 30th is the MASC Day on the Hill, which is all around advocacy as well.
Excellent. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for your work in budget. So with that, we are moving on from budget. We are moving into policy. So we will do the policy subcommittee update. I will turn it over to Joan, but Dr. Galvin, if I can invite you up to the desk, podium thing.
So, to the thing. So the policy subcommittee met, we were all in attendance, and we talked through all of these policies. One thing I just want to note in the memo, the way that the first one around recess is worded is not.
Correct.
It's correct, but it doesn't reflect the full, so the blurb says we removed the recess requirement for grade 5, but that does not mean we removed recess from grade 5. The policy had called out grade 5, and then we removed the call out and included them in, yeah, so there's, the long and the short is if you look at the blurb, it looks like we removed recess from 5th grade, and we did not. It is the same as it has always been.
But it's just, to my understanding, because of the reconfiguration of
Exactly.
the schools.
Exactly.
Excellent.
And now I'll turn it over to Dr. Gallen.
Okay.
Thanks, Dr. Goodwin. Thanks, everyone, for having me. As Joan said, we met last week. We reviewed Section I of the School Committee Policy Manual. As a side note, Section I and J are extremely large. They are the 2 largest sections of the manual and make up together about 150 pages, which is about a third of the whole thing. So we decided to take them one at a time, so we did not have extremely long policy subcommittee sections on the school committee agenda. Well, most of the policies either amended or rescinded are in your consent agenda tonight. I did want to highlight a section of 4 policies that we reviewed as part of a reorganization of how MASC recommends technology policies specifically and how they be laid out. So I'll take 4 technology policies that are in Section I. and go through them briefly, one at a time. Policy IJND is access to digital resources. Formally, this policy outlined the responsibilities of the superintendent and the director of technology as it relates to acceptable and responsible use. In this mask recommended version, the policy is truncated significantly. Information related to the responsible use appears in a later policy for organizational purposes, and this keeps the introductory paragraph with one minor change as it relates to kind of the school committee stance on supporting the technology budget to whatever extent is possible. Policy IJNDB. This is a title change from what used to be called Empowered Use of Technology to a much more accurate title, Use of Technology in Instruction. Similar to what I just said about the previous policy, this takes information again that is related to responsible and acceptable use by students and staff and puts that in a later section for organizational purposes. It does leave the introductory philosophical paragraph and adds a general sentence about responsible use. So those two are really just shortening and kind of moving things around. IJNDC, this is the most substantial revision in this section. Formerly, this policy referred to strictly to the district website only. It was a template from the 2015 MASC recommended model, and it reflects technology standards of 2015. And information in that is either currently provided in our job descriptions about what people should do related to the district website, or it is laid out in the responsible use agreement that staff and students sign each year. So instead, this policy is now titled Responsible Use of Digital Resources, covers all the areas of technology that we use, that all of our staff and students use, and it outlines the parameters for the ongoing monitoring and issuance of a responsible use agreement. The responsible use agreement, as a reminder to the school committee, was approved by you all in June 2026. And in that is a super detailed, laid out agreement of what staff and students should do, what they should not do as it relates to using any district issued technology and district issued digital resources. So this policy really governs what you're supposed to do around that, but not the nitty gritty of what is laid out in the agreement. Lastly, IJNDD is a pretty simple change, formerly known as a policy on social networking. This renames the policy to a more current and broader application of social media. Again, just changing with the times and having correct terminology that reflects what we're using. Outside of those four technology-related policies, as Dr. Gilba mentioned, with recess policy, just one additional note on that. While the language in that policy was clarified to reflect that grade 5 is now part of the middle school, it doesn't change anything in practice. But as a side note, it is my understanding and our understanding that there were some historical conversations about recess in grade 6 and requirements on that and potential policy language around that. While not in the policy manual at this current time, I did note it is the current practice of our middle school to allow grade 6 students a brief recess whenever that is possible, when weather cooperates, when staffing is full, and all of those good things. For grade 7 and 8, they also tried to do that as time allows. With the structure of the new building, that's a little more difficult. 7th and 8th grade, the dining hall is on the 3rd floor. So moving 250 students from the 3rd floor to the 1st floor and outside takes about the time of a recess. I do want to just note that those efforts are in there, and certainly as a policy subcommittee and in the future with you all, we're willing to take a look at that. But that is in practice happening with grade 6 as much as possible. All of the other rescindments and amendments are in the consent agenda, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
First, thank you both. Second, to the committee. Questions, comments, concerns, queries?
Two questions on the ones in our consent agenda. So i.e. organization of instruction. It's mentioned in our memo that we could rescind or we could modify. Was it the recommendation of the policy subcommittee to rescind, or were you still going back and forth on that?
It was my recollection is it was the recommendation to rescind it. It's not really a policy, it's just a statement of like what grades we have at each level.
Okay, okay. And that's no longer an MASC policy?
Correct,
Yeah.
and it's not needed as a policy.
Yeah. Right. I just saw like the or, so I didn't know if you already made a recommendation or if you wanted us to debate the or.
Yeah, that's in there for rescindment.
Okay.
And when we went into the policy subcommittee, it was kind of like, we would recommend this be rescinded, but if the school committee would prefer to keep it there, there's no harm, no foul.
And then the remote learning addendum, although I know currently we are not allowed to do remote learning, this policy is still in the MASC policy manual.
So there are two remote learning sections in the policy manual. One remains, which is remote learning, which basically says in the event of some catastrophic event,
Yeah.
you can offer remote learning when the state allows you to do so, all those
Yeah.
good things. This one that we're recommending for rescindment is really a list of best practices if you were to go to remote learning. It's not a policy so much as internal practices that if we were to enact the other policy, these are the things we should consider when we are doing it.
So we still have the other one in our manual?
That's correct. No changes made to the other one.
The addendum we're recommending rescinding was more like guidance versus policy. It came out
Right.
during COVID, right, at the beginning of COVID.
Yeah,
It
and
did,
it's
yeah.
not really a policy.
Yeah, it's guidance.
If you had to enact the
Yeah.
policy due to circumstances beyond everyone's control,
Okay.
do these things.
So we're still keeping IHBHE, not dash E?
Correct.
Okay,
Were those your two?
yes.
Anything else?
I
Yes,
just had
ma'am.
one more. The homeschooling one. So do we have a policy at all around this? Do we need one? Are we supposed to have one?
Yes,
Yeah.
so we
Right.
we have a policy. There's no significant changes to that. Internal practices
Okay,
exist
so this-
according to the law.
Okay, so okay.
Yeah.
So this is just this was an extra that just didn't need to be in there, the homeschooling policy.
That one
So
is
we
still
still
in
have a
there. That's still in
homeschooling
there.
policy. This piece is a process procedure.
Okay.
So there's two
That's what I wanted
there.
to
We
make sure
have
of, yeah.
IHBG homeschooling, and then we
Okay.
had IHBGR homeschooling. And really IHBGR is again practices.
Yeah.
So, and those can fluctuate as law changes, as
Absolutely.
it sometimes does.
Okay, no, that makes perfect sense. I just wanted to make sure the other
But
one
we
was-
still have a
we
policy
still have a policy.
governing
Yeah.
homeschooling.
I was like, I'm a little afraid of this one. Yeah, okay, no, that's great.
No,
Yeah.
we still have to like approve plans. and
Right,
all
okay.
that fun stuff. Any other questions? Okay, well, thank you, Joan and Dr. Galligan for your work on that. I will put it to the committee. Is there a motion on the table?
I'll make a motion to approve updated policies IJND, IJNDB, IJNDC, and IJNDD.
Okay.
I'd
So
like
Teresa
to second
moves.
and make a friendly amendment that we just approve all the policies as outlined on the committee, as outlined on the memo.
So we pull them out of the consent.
Pull them out of the consent agenda and just do it now.
Do you accept that friendly amendment?
Sure.
Okay.
I was trying to not violate your consent agenda, David.
Yes, I know, I-
Because you
Jumped
like the
right on
consent
top of
agenda
it.
I
Much more
love-
than I do.
I love the consent agenda.
Jumped right on top of it. Let's just approve all the policy stuff at once.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, and so that amendment would be to just take what's in, the approve updated policies in the consent agenda, move them up to policy, and approve them all at once.
Yeah, and if Donna could just put, like, copy paste that in the minutes, that way it's very clear
Yeah.
for anybody in the future what we voted on.
As well as the vote to rescind.
Yes.
Yes,
Correct.
that is
Everything-
part of
everything
it.
that's in the
Approve
memo.
and vote to rescind, excuse me. So that's why we have the memo. Donna, if you have questions, let me know when we end. Any other further questions, comments?
Well, there was, you seconded, you accepted, do we have to second it? No, okay, just making sure.
No,
Procedural.
just as long as she
Second
says
again.
it's friendly, yeah. She
Making
says
sure.
As long as
friendly
she says
amendment.
it's friendly.
Listen, I know Robert's rules. I used to run a mock
What if you
Senate.
don't say friendly amendment? What does that mean?
Then that gets canceled and you just go back to the regular motion.
I did
I'd
not know
like to make
that.
a hostile amendment.
Listen,
Yeah,
you learn
I-
something new every day from the history teacher, right?
Hostile.
Hearing nothing else, I can take a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I always confuse that. None. So that passes 4-0. Thank you for your work and thank you for
Thank you very
staying.
much.
Thank
you,
you.
Dr.
Dr. Galligan. With that, we move into the shortened consent agenda, which is accept and approval of donations, as well as the approval of the February 11th open session minutes. And I don't see, are the executive session minutes on there?
Yes, well,
Okay.
they're not. Like,
Great.
But Donna sent them all.
Okay, I was going to say, I definitely saw them.
Yeah.
Pleasure of the committee.
I will make a motion to approve the consent agenda, including donations from Bay State Textiles for our January rebate in the amount of $666.30. I don't like that number.
Second.
Okay. Mr. Reed seconds. Further questions, comments, concerns? Hearing none, I will take a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? No. So that also passes 4-0. Thank you for your work and thank you for the donations. I will turn it over to the school committee for addenda. Joan, we'll start with you.
I have no addenda this evening.
Okay. Teresa?
Just to invite the community to come to our budget hearing. Although it's a pretty positive budget, I would still like to hear some feedback, especially when people are not mad at us.
Excellent. Anne Marie?
I would just say that although I feel really good about this budget, that the work is not done. Still got a few weeks left of budgetary work to do, and then I just encourage the public to continue to pay attention to the budget work into and through town meeting and into the future, and just stay engaged. While I will not be here when the town meeting votes on it, I am a town meeting member, so I will be voting.
Yeah.
So I just encourage everybody to keep paying attention, because it's not always going to be pretty. We know that.
Yeah. Excellent. The only thing I would do is just reiterate, I know the two big things the school committee does are policy and budget, and I know Teresa and Anne Marie, you guys have worked tirelessly between budget sub and with the committee and on BBC to get the budget to where it is. I also would be remiss in not thanking Tim and Sean, JJ, the rest of the administrative staff for their work as well as our town partners. Good luck at FinCom tomorrow. It'll be three weeks before it's the final vote, but in another 2 weeks, we'll have the hearing, and hopefully there'll be few, if any, adjustments. So with that, we have reached that time of night. Is there a motion to adjourn? Pleasure of the committee.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Teresa makes the motion, Joan seconds. We can do a voice vote.
No, we still have to poll. Did I get poll individual? Oh, no. We're
No.
not going to executive.
No,
Oh, my God.
because we're in person,
We're
I
not
know,
going to-
right?
We're not going to executive session.
Yeah.
No, that's why we used to always have to go to executive session.
Yeah, tonight we do not.
Proceed.
So, all those in favor?
Aye.
All righty. So
Emphatically.
at 8:52, the motion to adjourn passes. So that is the end of our meeting. We will see you guys in 2 weeks on, Wednesday, March 18th, when it will be spring and sunny.